the determination of every country represented here at NATO remains rock solid. We will do everything that we can, allies will do everything that they can to ensure that Ukraine has what it needs to continue to deal with Russia's ongoing aggression against Ukraine, an aggression that gets worse with every passing day. Ukraine will become a member of NATO. Our purpose at the summit is to help build a bridge to that membership and to create a clear pathway for Ukraine.
This is my video update on this Friday midday, April the 5th. Let's talk about some news, and let's start things off with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Brussels at the NATO summit, speaking to reporters with Ukraine's foreign minister, Dmytro Kuleba, standing next to him. And Blinken told reporters that Ukraine will become a member of NATO. He said, "Our purpose at the summit is to help build a bridge to that membership and to create a clear pathway for Ukraine moving forward." Both Blinken and Kuleba, they did not sound very confident. They did not look very confident as they were speaking to reporters. And they both looked very tired and very defeated. So Blinken, he gave no timeline, provided no details as to how, when, in what capacity will Ukraine enter NATO. And he just said that they're working to build a bridge for membership. They're working to build a bridge for membership. It sounds to me like Blinken is dangling, continues to dangle NATO membership to the Zelensky regime in exchange for the Zelensky regime to continue to fight Russia, at least fight Russia and don't collapse until November 2024. That's the vibe that I got from Blinken. That's the message that I took away from Blinken's statement. He's keeping Ukraine on the hook. We'll give you NATO, but we'll build a bridge for you guys to enter NATO, but just keep on fighting and don't collapse before November 2024. Keeping Ukraine on the hook. So Sikorski, the Polish foreign minister, thank you USA Sikorski, he spoke to the media at this NATO event, and he said that NATO has decided to create a mission in Ukraine to better coordinate the proxy war against Russia. Sikorski, speaking to journalists following a meeting to commemorate the 75th anniversary of NATO, declared that the bloc has decided to create a new mission. He stressed, however, that this does not mean that we are going to war, but it does mean that we will now be able to use the coordination, training, planning capabilities of NATO to support Ukraine in a more coordinated manner. Specifically, he pointed out that under the new initiative, Ukrainian troops will be more actively trained in Poland. The Polish diplomat also suggested that such a format would not be confrontational for Moscow. That's right. This is not confrontational for Moscow. Russia should not see the creation of a new, that's the key word, the creation of a new mission in Ukraine to coordinate, plan, train Ukraine in this conflict with Russia, in this proxy war with Russia. They should not see this as confrontational. Thank you, USA Sikorski. A new mission is being set up in Ukraine, a new NATO mission being set up in Ukraine. What about all the old, the old existing NATO missions in Ukraine? Are they going to be able to reveal themselves now? Are they going to be able to come out of hiding and hang up a sign outside of their establishment which says NATO mission Ukraine? Is that what's going on? Thank you, USA Sikorsky. So yeah, it doesn't mean that NATO is going to war with Russia. No. Just because NATO is going to be setting up a mission to coordinate the NATO proxy army to fight Russia, it doesn't mean that NATO is going to war with Russia. Not at all, according to Sikorsky. And what exactly is this new mission going to coordinate, Sikorsky? What are they going to coordinate? The collapse of Ukrainian front lines? Is that what they're going to coordinate? Because the front lines of Ukraine are absolutely collapsing. What exactly is this NATO mission going to be doing in Ukraine? And why will Russia allow this NATO mission to exist? Probably Russia will allow this NATO mission to exist because Russia doesn't want to escalate things to get to the point of World War III. So probably they'll allow some sort of a NATO office in Ukraine, as long as it doesn't move towards overt military activity, NATO boots on the ground. I imagine Russia will put in place some red lines, and they'll say, okay, you can have some NATO administrators in Ukraine coordinating whatever you want to coordinate. You're already doing it anyway. But as long as there's no NATO boots on the ground, we'll allow this office to exist. Maybe that may be the case. Or perhaps Russia is just going to look at this NATO mission, this NATO office, and send an Iskander right into these facilities. I don't know. But the foreign ministers, they're in Brussels and they're strategizing next moves. Sikorsky in Brussels, Blinken in Brussels, Kuleba in Brussels, Annalena 360. They're all in Brussels. They're all attending this NATO summit, and they're all strategizing the next steps to continue to fight Russia. Yeah. Baerbock, Blinken, Sikorsky, and Kuleba. Oh, and Jan Stoltenberg. Let's not forget about the military genius known as Stoltenberg. They're all there strategizing their next moves to take on Russia. This is not going to end well for Ukraine. This is not going to end well at all for Ukraine or the collective West or NATO. Oh boy. So the head of the State Duma's Defense Committee, Andrei Kartapolov, he responded to the move by stating that the creation of a NATO mission in Ukraine could be an attempt to legalize the bloc's next steps. We will watch them carefully, he told the news outlet RIA on Thursday. Yeah, they will watch them carefully. Russia's gonna set out some red lines for this NATO mission. That's exactly what they're going to do. That's exactly what they're going to relay to NATO. We'll allow you guys to have an office as long as you don't do X, Y, and Z. The minute you cross these red lines, well then, say hello to Mr. Iskander. That's I think the line that Russia's going to take with this NATO mission. Medvedev, well, he was a lot more hawkish in his response to the news of this new NATO mission. Medvedev basically said that Russia will view any NATO troops in Ukraine as the enemy, and Russia will annihilate the enemy. And the Russian soldiers that annihilate the enemy, they should get rewarded handsomely for annihilating the enemy. In a post on social media, Medvedev lashed out at Kiev's Western backers, arguing that they are taking the world for fools if they believe that sending foreign forces to Ukraine would not lead to dangerous escalation. If NATO soldiers do end up in Ukraine, they will not be limited to non-combat roles, he claimed. They will become part of the regular forces that are fighting against us. That is why they will have to be treated only as the enemy, Medvedev, who currently serves as deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council, wrote. We should take no prisoners. The highest rewards must be given out to every killed NATO soldier. So Medvedev is very clear in his statement. It's very, very clear. NATO soldiers. That's going to be the line in the sand. Keep your commanders, coordinators, planners, pencil pushers, administrators, accountants, whatever. You can keep them in your offices throughout NATO. They're already there. Look, they're already there. They already exist. Now they can just come out and reveal themselves. That's basically all that has happened with Sikorsky's statement. But the minute you cross that line in the sand and you start sending NATO soldiers, which is very possible, this is how escalation is done. The minute we start seeing NATO soldiers entering Ukraine, we are going to annihilate them. And we're going to hand out rewards to the Russian soldiers that annihilate the NATO soldiers that enter Ukraine. Any NATO soldier that agrees to go to Ukraine, that follows orders and goes to Ukraine is being sent to their certain death. Because the Russian military, they're not going to treat the NATO military the way they've been going at Ukraine, at least for the first 2 years. The way they've been going at Ukraine, that's not how they're going to handle NATO. So that's the warning from Medvedev. But he's very clear to say NATO soldiers. NATO soldiers will be viewed as the enemy. So that is the news from the NATO summit. We'll get back to the NATO summit in our clown world. But yesterday, Bidenopolis, he had a phone call with Netanyahu. It's been about a month since Biden has spoken personally to Benjamin Netanyahu. And according to the media reports, Biden, he warned Netanyahu to protect civilians in Gaza or else. According to the Daily Mail, Biden warned Netanyahu U.S. could turn on Israel and impose consequences if it fails to protect civilians in Gaza, days after the IDF bombing killed 7 aid workers. This is what the Daily Mail is reporting. President Joe Biden effectively gave Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu an ultimatum, reportedly warning Israel must protect civilians in Gaza or there will be consequences. Biden warned Netanyahu that Israel could lose American support if civilians kept getting hurt and killed during an hour-long phone call on Thursday. A senior administration officer told CNN the president did not give specifics, of course he didn't, about how he would consider shifting U.S. policy if Israel does not follow through, but gave a list of changes that need to be made. The source said Biden and Netanyahu had moments of disagreement on the call, but there was no sparring. There is reportedly no follow-up call currently planned between the two leaders, but Friday morning, Netanyahu's office announced it will open a key border crossing into northern Gaza. So the same day that Biden called up Netanyahu and warned Netanyahu, the Biden White House sent Israel more bombs to replenish all the bombs that they have used on Gaza. The Biden administration recently authorized the transfer of over 1,500 500-pound bombs and over 1,000 small diameter bombs to Israel, according to 3 people familiar with the matter, adding to its arsenal despite U.S. concerns over the country's conduct in the war in Gaza. The transfer authorization of the Mk-82 bombs and small diameter bombs, more than 2,000 munitions in total, occurred on Monday, according to 2 of the people familiar. It was authorized before an Israeli strike on humanitarian convoy in Gaza that evening that killed 7 employees of the aid organization World Central Kitchen, a State Department spokesperson said. Okay, so the authorization to deliver more bombs to Israel was given on Monday, not yesterday. So on Monday, the Biden White House authorized more bombs, more weapons to Israel. Israel then bombed the World Central Kitchen, the convoy of the World Central Kitchen, which we all know about, which I talked about in a video 2-3 days ago. And then Biden has a call with Netanyahu, and according to the readouts, to the reports on the call, Biden sent a warning to Netanyahu to look after civilians, to be careful about civilians in Gaza. But no details, no specifics, nothing. Just a warning that Netanyahu will face consequences. That doesn't sound like Netanyahu is going to face any consequences. But Kirby, he went on CNN, Wolf Blitzer's show, and Kirby expressed concern that Iran will retaliate against Israel for the bombing of Iran's embassy in Syria that happened 3-4 days ago. Tehran has warned that it reserves its legitimate and inherent right to defend itself after an airstrike on Iran's consulate building in Damascus, Syria, killed several military officials on Monday, including 2 senior commanders. Iranian officials have blamed Israel for the attack, and the IDF has declined requests from Newsweek to confirm or deny its role in the bombing. Speaking with CNN's Wolf Blitzer, Kirby said that the White House was concerned over the possibility of tensions between Iran and Israel raising into a full-scale war in light of the attack, adding, "We're all taking this very, very seriously. No one wants to see this conflict escalate." Yeah, right. No one, absolutely no one wants to see this conflict escalate, except for the neocons and the Biden White House and Netanyahu. Outside of these people, no one else wants to see this conflict escalate. So that was Kirby's statement to Wolf Blitzer. So let's, should we do some clown worlds? Let's see here. Do I have any more stories? The Russian economy grew by 7.7% in February, year over year, while retail sales grew 12.3% in the same month. So let's do some clown worlds and we can wrap this video up. How about we start with Macron? Macron speaking to reporters in France. He was asked about the Olympic Games and possible Russian interference. And Macron said, "I have no doubt whatsoever, including in terms of information, that Russia is going to interfere in the Paris Olympics." Russia is going to interfere in the Olympics in Paris. They're going to spoil the Olympic Games. Putin is going to spoil the Olympic Games for Macron. Unbelievable stuff, huh? They're banning Russian athletes. They're spying on Russian athletes. They're insulting and mocking Russian athletes. The Olympics, France, the Olympic Committee, the mayor of Paris, who said that Russian and Belarusian athletes are not welcome in in Paris at the Olympics. And after all of these statements and all of these actions, just the other day, Vovan and Lexus, they prank called the IOC chief, and the IOC chief revealed that he has other athletes, including Ukrainian athletes, actively trying to spy on the Russian athletes, trying to catch the Russian athletes in saying stuff that could get them banned from the Olympic Games as neutral participants. So he admitted that to Vovan and Lexus the other day. So after all of these revelations over the past couple of weeks with regards to Russia and the Olympic Games, it's Macron that comes out with a statement and says that Russia is at fault. Russia's going to do something. Russia's the bad guy in all of this. It's unbelievable stuff, man. It really is unbelievable freaking stuff. Macron also commented on the call between the French defense minister and the Russian defense minister that took place the other day. And let me see here. The French and Russian defense ministries talked by phone on Wednesday. During the conversation, Le Cornu repeatedly told his Russian counterpart that Western countries and Ukraine had no involvement in the massacre, the terrorist attack in Moscow. The Russian MOD reported. Shoigu replied that he had intelligence to the contrary, saying the Kiev regime does nothing without the approval of its Western backers. We hope that in this case, the French intelligence services are not behind this. Shoigu added, here's Macron's statement. Macron called the statements ridiculous, baroque, and threatening. It makes no sense to say that France could be behind the Moscow terror attack and that the Ukrainians are behind it, the president told the media on Thursday. He added that the phone call was prompted by Paris's willingness to share useful information as part of joint work among countries affected by terrorism. Yeah, right. Macron wants us to believe that the phone call between his defense minister and Shoigu was all about Paris wanting to share useful information on terrorism with Russia. Who are you trying to kid, Macron? Who are you trying to kid? And going by Macron's response to the reporter's inquiry about Russia's claims that France may have had some sort of knowledge or role in this terrorist attack, just going by Macron's response to this reporter, this is ridiculous. This is baroque and threatening. It makes no sense to say that France could be behind the Moscow terror attack and that Ukrainians are behind it. The fact that he says, and that Ukrainians are behind it, that he throws that in there, just going off of Macron's statement, yeah, that doesn't look so good for Ukraine and for France. I don't know, Macron, you should have kept your mouth shut. That would have been my advice. Anyway, that was Macron's response to reporters asking about the phone call between the French defense minister and Shoigu. And finally, we have Biden, who was in Delaware the other day, marking Greek Independence Day. And we have video of Biden telling people at this event, Greek Americans, I imagine, at this event, quote, I forget the exact number of voters, but I think every Greek in Delaware voted for me, Biden said. That's why I acquired a nickname I'm very proud of. I'm Joe Bidenopoulos, end quote.
Every Greek American in Delaware voted for me because they... No. By the way, as some of the Delawareans will tell you, that's why I acquired a nickname I'm very proud of. I am Joe Bidenopoulos.
It's not a joke, everybody. Biden really said that. Oh, man. Are my nicknames not prophetic? Oh boy, Joe Bidenopoulos, Greece's favorite son. You know, one of these days, Ursula von der Leyen is going to give a speech, maybe to like EU Parliament or something like that. She's going to give a speech, and she's going to say, you know, in my younger days as a girl growing up in Germany, in school they would call me crazy, crazy von der Leyen. You better believe it. One day, Ursula's going to give a speech and say, my nickname in high school was Ursula von der Crazy. Oh boy. Anyway, that's the video, everybody. The Duran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter X. And go to the Duran shop. Pick up some limited edition merch. Link is down below in the description box. Take care.